welcome and thank you for joining me on today's session. Really excited to be joined by Jack Walker from SHL and Nicola Lamplau from Experian as well. And we're really going to be talking around the early careers and graduate market today. So really trying to look at what's happened over the last year, how the pandemic has impacted, and also looking ahead as well. So thank you very much for joining me, both of you. Perhaps it's best off to start with some introductions. So I might go ladies first. So Nicola, would you like to introduce yourself and Experian as well?
I'm Nicola Lamplau. I'm the Early Careers Manager at Experian. So that basically means that I'm responsible for all the recruitment and development of our graduates and apprentices into the UK market.
Hi, so yes, Jack Walker, and I am in charge of client development at SHL. I've been there for around 9 years or so, and SHL are kind of big assessment players and big on people insight and people science. And so in particular, over the last sort of year or so, I've been involved in a lot of the graduate recruitment, early careers recruitment solutions, and a bit of a SME in that area.
Jack, you're in quite a unique position where you work with a number of clients, sort of looking at their early careers and graduate schemes. Where are we up to at the moment? What's the market been doing? Have you got a little bit of a précis as to what the market is currently at in that early career space?
We've seen companies have huge increases in volumes, applications, interest. And on top of that, we've obviously seen programs that have always consistently existed in the past and now don't exist at all. There's been a big emphasis probably on smaller organizations who struggled more. So we have at SHL a sort of middle market team as well as a large enterprise team. And large enterprises probably continue to be as busy as ever, and sort of slightly hidden the damage that the pandemic has caused versus middle market, where it's been a lot more exposed. What I would say is that the lockdowns seem to have encouraged a lot more candidates to apply to the fewer roles that are available, but therefore the companies that are recruiting have seen huge volume increases, and we've got stories of 100, 200% increases in applications from certain sectors.
We were certainly quicker to market this time round. We were in a fortunate position as a company that we were quite clear on what we needed. So we've been able to go out earlier. I know a lot of companies have been holding back, waiting to see how the markets and how their businesses are going. So what I would say is that, not only have we had that increased volume, but the caliber of the candidates is really high. So, we've been really pleasantly surprised that we're seeing really strong pools coming through, and it's actually been quite difficult, even, at shortlisting stage to filter that down due to the high caliber. I think for us as well, we've probably got more presence in the early careers market over the last year. Certainly everything going virtually went in our favour in the autumn, because we could do a lot more attraction work online than we would have been able to do if we'd had to physically go to careers fairs and careers events. So I think it's been a double positive in our favour, really, in that there's less opportunities around, and we've really raised our profile as well. From our strategy point of view, we are definitely increasing our roles across the piece in all areas, but in particular for us as a data company, definitely around the sort of software engineering and data analytics space. That's where we tend to recruit most graduates. It is a competitive market, but we've been pleasantly surprised again by the volumes and the caliber that we've seen coming through. And females as well, because we know that they're traditionally spaces that it's very hard to attract females to. So I have to say I've been pleasantly surprised by the number of female applicants coming through for those roles.
It's really interesting that the whole diversity piece, especially within early careers and those kind of roles, is on everyone's radar. So it's nice to hear and see that you've had more sort of females coming in through that area as well.
It's something that we've been increasingly mindful of, because we're really keen to get a diverse set of candidates through for our roles. So traditionally, yes, in the sort of more technical field, we might have gone for computer science, for example, as a degree discipline, but we know that the diversity of people doing that is not as diverse as perhaps looking at some other degrees. So we've really opened our minds up, and our hiring managers' minds, to looking at a much more diverse base of candidates. So for some of those roles, we're more interested in an analytical mindset than necessarily what degree they did. Mm-hmm. So that would definitely be a factor.
I do think that organisations are being a little less fussy about backgrounds and about how they actually attract, how they select people based on technical skill, based on degree and things like that. So that's opening the doors a little more to candidates who may have done something loosely connected to that type of a job, who've then felt actually that the selection process itself hasn't stopped them from doing well. And so we've definitely seen a bigger shift in, and we've been very much advising on this shift as well, to look at the opportunity of all these graduates that are in the market that probably you wouldn't have been able to attract or select from previously, because they would have gone down their stereotypical paths of this university for this job, for this course, for this job. But companies have adapted. They've started to think about, well, hold on a second, we can probably train them on quite a lot of this stuff. So why don't we actually just think about how do they fit our business? How do they fit the behaviors of being a successful graduate, and recruit them based on that, as well as their raw potential and ability. And then we'll almost kind of give them the development, the information that they need to be successful in more of the specific content.
Have there been any real lessons learned over the last sort of 12 months and taking that shift to entirely virtual? Are there anything that you would think, do you know what, if I could make a recommendation to anyone else in this industry, this is what I'd say to watch out for, or anything along those lines?
I think the key thing that comes to mind for me is preparation. Preparation is everything, and that's in a number of ways. I think, first of all, in just not underestimating the time and effort it takes to set up a virtual event. With all, if you've got a number of candidates coming through, it's quite complex in terms of the number of links you've got to have, people to join, preparing managers as well, so taking time to actually take them through it step by step in advance and explain what to expect and what to do if things do go wrong, like, the postman knocks on the door or the dog barks. And the same with the candidates as well. We've actually set up doing preparation sessions for them. So a few days before the actual assessment centre event, we do actually have a call with them to test their technology, explain the functionality of the platform we're using. And again, to just reassure them that, if something happens whilst they're online, then not to panic, and to give them some hints and tips. And that's definitely been well worth doing. So that would be my key advice to anybody else, is really think about your preparation.
Definitely that focus on experience, focus on the process and making it as smooth as possible, and communication. So being able to give that clear flow to the candidate and understanding. Definitely still working on things with regards to virtual assessment centres. I don't think anyone has completely nailed it. They've either nailed it like Nicola has with regards to being quite hands-on and high touch, but there's definitely a middle ground for more automation, more system support. But we're working out how to balance assessors versus candidates versus moderators, all the different platforms, different levels of technology ability, etc., etc. Interestingly, there's obviously, goes without saying, much bigger focus on technology, much bigger emphasis on making sure that whatever they're putting candidates in front of or as their sort of shop window is really clear, consistent, transparent, gives them that education. And we're building systems or platforms for candidates to go through that try and give them that end-to-end experience, to educate them and help them learn about whether the job's for them, far more than just send them to somewhere to take some assessments. I think that's really key, that organizations are really starting to see the value in helping a candidate make their own decision versus kind of making that decision for them.
What do you think is next? What do you think is coming up? Is it just going to be advancements of these technologies, or do you think there's going to be anything else coming up?
There's definitely a focus on the evolvement and the continuation of improvement with all of the things that I've already mentioned around the experience, education, end-to-end smoothness of the journey for a candidate. So there's definitely a big focus on that. I'd like to think they want to capitalize on the emphasis on behavior. So behavior has become a really big thing this year, focusing on the fact that they've got such broad applications, I don't think organizations are going to want to lose that. So I don't see them going back to specific universities, career fairs, as much as they can avoid, because they will hopefully have got used to the fact that they can attract candidates from anywhere. Now, that's not necessarily something that SHL gets involved with. We help them with once they're in the funnel, but that attraction piece, I think, is going to be really key, and how they keep that as a broad strategy to really maximize the diversity of background and thought coming into the funnel from the get-go.
There's been less opportunity for graduates looking to do a placement year out during their degree. Those seem to have disappeared, including our own. So we've not really had as many opportunities to give people to come and do that. So we may, for example, in the next 2 or 3 years, see more graduates coming through with less relevant work experience, for example. which isn't necessarily a problem if they can demonstrate that the sort of transferable skills we talked about earlier. But I think that's one obvious area I can see will definitely be impacted. And certainly some undergraduates I've spoken to this year that were planning to do a year in industry have now accepted that they won't be able to do that and have carried on to the final year of their degree. I think at the school leaver end, I think there's potentially going to be more disruption. I think for that sort of younger end of the early careers market, they've probably felt it the most so far. And I've, certainly heard a lot about sort of kids in year 11, 12, 13 that are feeling quite disillusioned, kind of feel like they've lost their way a little bit. They don't really know what they want to do and what's the right thing to do. So I think there's going to need to be a lot more sort of support and guidance at that end of the market, and really helping sort of put them back on track, I guess, in terms of thinking about what they might want to do when they leave school or finish their A-levels.
Was there anything that you wanted to end on, just sort of final words?
If there's anything that we've learned over nearly the last 12 months since the first lockdown, it's that the world isn't going to just suddenly go back to normal. And I think it's very unlikely that it will be back to normal by September time or August, when most companies start to really gear up on this. So start thinking about a sort of halfway house potentially, or even just plow on with a virtual approach, and people will be very accepting of that.
What's in my mind is it's review and then plan and preparation. So we will finish our campaign probably by the end of April. So we plan to do a review at that point from every aspect, from the line managers, recruitment experience point of view, from the candidate's point of view, and from our point of view in terms of the processes and the tools that we've used. And we'll go straight into thinking about on what does the campaign need to look like for next year. So what are our business needs, and therefore what kind of planning and preparation do we need to do for that? So that's exactly what Jack said, basically.
So thank you very much from me. Hope to see you hopefully in person sometime soon, but if not, it might be virtual. But thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.